Sherri Daly. Sherri Daly was a 35-year-old mother from Ventura, California who was murdered in 1996. Her body was found in the backseat of her car, which had been abandoned in a parking lot. She had been strangled and her hands had been tied behind her back. The case remained unsolved for several years until 2001, when a man named Michael Daly, Sherri's husband, was convicted of orchestrating her murder. He had hired a coworker, Curtis Hunsinger, to kill Sherri so that he could be with his mistress, Diana Hahn. During the investigation, it was revealed that Michael Daly had a history of infidelity and had been having an affair with Hahn for several months. He had also been involved in a custody battle with Sherri over their 2 children. Hahn was initially charged with murder along with Hunsinger and Michael Daly, but her charges were later reduced to being an accessory to murder. She served time in prison for her involvement in the crime. The murder of Sherri Daly remains a tragic and notorious case in Ventura County's history. How Curtis Hunsinger murdered Sherri Daly. Curtis Hunsinger, the man hired by Michael Daly to kill Sherri Daly, strangled her with a nylon cord while she was sitting in the passenger seat of her car. He then tied her hands behind her back and drove the car to a parking lot where he left it with Sherri's body still inside. The murder was a premeditated and cold-blooded act that was carried out as part of a plan orchestrated by Michael Daly. How Michael Daly got caught. Michael Daly was caught and eventually convicted of orchestrating the murder of his wife, Sherri Daly, through a combination of circumstantial evidence and witness testimony. During the investigation, detectives discovered that Michael Daly had been having an affair with a coworker, Diana Hahn, and had been planning to leave his wife for her. They also discovered that he had been involved in a custody battle with Sherri over their 2 children. One of the key pieces of evidence against Michael Daly was a recorded conversation he had with Hahn, in which they discussed their involvement in Sherri's murder. The recording was made by a police informant who had befriended Hahn and gained her trust. In addition to the recorded conversation, prosecutors presented a range of other circumstantial evidence linking Michael Daly to the murder, including phone records and witness testimony. In 2001, Michael Daly was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Trial and imprisonment of Michael Daly. Michael Daly was tried and convicted of first-degree murder in 2001 for orchestrating the murder of his wife, Sherri Daly. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. During the trial, prosecutors presented a range of evidence linking Michael Daly to the murder, including phone records, witness testimony, and a recorded conversation he had with his mistress, Diana Hahn, in which they discussed their involvement in the crime. In addition to Michael Daly, his mistress Diana Hahn and the hitman Curtis Hunsinger were also charged in connection with the murder. Hahn was charged with murder but her charges were later reduced to being an accessory to murder. Hunsinger, the hitman who actually carried out the murder, pleaded guilty and was also sentenced to life in prison. The trial was highly publicized and gained widespread media attention due to the shocking and brutal nature of the crime. The murder of Sherri Daly was a tragic event that shook the community of Ventura, California, and the trial served as a reminder of the devastating impact that domestic violence can have on families. Michael Daly is currently serving his sentence at the California State Prison in Solano County, California.